Hello YouTube. I have talked about ancient Greek inventions in several of my videos. I am fascinated by unique, sometimes strange weapons from antiquity. Today I want to describe one such invention, the Polybolos. The name means multi-thrower in Greek. Was an ancient Greek repeating ballista, reputedly invented by Dionysius of Alexandria, who was a 3rd century before Common Era Greek engineer at the Rhodes arsenal, and it was used in antiquity. The Polybolus was not a crossbow, since it used a torsion mechanism, drawing its power from twisted sinew bundles. It was a repeating straight spring catapult that had the possibility of automatically launching arrows in succession and constituted the leading achievement of ancient Greek catapult engineering. The catapult was constructed for the inhabitants of Rhodos. It was equipped with a turning roller that had 2 grooves, one lengthwise and one helical, and a wooden case that held the arrows to be launched. Also, on both sides of its case, it had a pair of pentagonal sprockets, gears, that were connected with an iron wooden chain. A pin on each chain was connected at the same point with the slider of the catapult. The slider had a bent axle with its end entering the helical groove of the roller above. With the right rotation by the operator of the weapon, of the hand levers at the rear sprockets, the slider moved automatically forwards. The roller turned left automatically until the lengthwise groove was aligned with the corresponding opening of the arrow case, and then an arrow fell into the groove of the roller. At the same time, the string entered automatically into the claw of the slider, and a stable pin pushed the trigger automatically and locked the claw. With the left rotation of the sprockets, the slider moved automatically backwards. The roller turned right automatically until the lengthwise groove was aligned with the receiver of the slider, and the arrow fell automatically into this. At the same time, a stable pin pressed the trigger automatically and the claw was lifted. Then the string was released automatically and the arrow was launched. With a continuous backward and forward movement of the hand levers in this way, and in minimal time, the operator launched in succession all arrows of the quiver. That's an interesting description, but I have more. However, we must travel to ancient Rome at this point. Pompeii is traditionally perceived as a victim of Vesuvius, but a new study suggests looking at the city from a different angle, as an arena for testing advanced military technologies of antiquity. Unusual footprints on ancient stone walls may be the first physical evidence of the existence of a polybolus, one of the most mysterious types of ancient Greek weapons. We're talking about a multi-shot throwing device known from the description of Greek engineers as an antique machine gun. Archaeologists from Italy and Switzerland, led by Professor Adriana Rossi, explored the northern part of the Pompeii wall, where they found repeated depressions that differ in shape and configuration from the tracks left by conventional catapults. The nature of the holes, dense groups of 4 or 5, clearly aligned, suggests serial firing of a mechanical device. That recent study suggests Roman forces may have used that rare ancient Greek repeating ballista during the siege of Pompeii in AD 9 before Common Era. Researchers say markings discovered on the city's stone walls could be the earliest physical evidence of a repeating arrow-firing device known from ancient texts. The findings, led by Adriana Rossi of the University of Campania, were published in the Nexus Network Journal and focus on a section of Pompeii's northern wall near the gates of Vesuvius and Herculaneum. Historical sources point to the Polybolos, a Greek siege weapon with a torsion mechanism and automatic arrow feed, developed in the 3rd century before Common Era, as I said, by Dionysius of Alexandria. Later, Philo of Byzantium wrote about this weapon, mentioning a gear drive and a chain feed of shells. Using 3D modeling, the researchers calculated the impact force and flight path. The speed of the arrows reached 109 meters per second. A comparison of the size of the holes with the tips from museum collections confirmed their Roman origin. However, the purpose of the shots is still unclear. Either it was a shooting or a miss. Now the team plans to explore other areas of the fort to find out how widespread the use of such weapons was in ancient warfare. I have been doing my own research about ancient Rome, its espionage networks, its weapons, its paranormal phenomena, its interactions with the Druids, its experiences in the faraway lands, like what is Azerbaijan and Georgia today. And you can see my videos on the subject. But I also have kept a few notes about various weapons, like this one I'm talking about today. So what did the Romans have to do with the Polybolus? Quite a lot. The Roman army was well armed and organized. New types of weapons were constantly being developed to enhance the combat capability of the troops. One of these inventions was the rapid-fire Polybolus ballista, but we know that it was invented by the mathematician Dionysius from Alexandria, and it found its way into the Roman legions, most likely not by a goodwill gesture. Anyway, it was a huge wooden crossbow with a range of 400 meters. That's one description of it. The Romans were always looking for ways to improve their weapons. They adopted a new design from the Greeks and turned the ballista into polybolus. In fact, into a machine gun. The polybolus fired an arrow every 10 seconds. It doesn't seem like it's fast, but the firing rate has tripled. It was a devastating weapon. A deadly barrage of arrows 2,000 years before the appearance of the fabled Maxim machine gun. The rapid-fire weapon was an amazing design. The arrows were supplied by gravity. The cogwheel cocked the bowstring, and the polybolus fired. As long as there were supplies left in the magazine, it didn't stop. The mechanism is known as a chain drive and was first used in the West. Roman engineers reportedly were the first to master chain transmission. This technology would not be seen until the 16th century, when Leonardo da Vinci allegedly reinvented it. Polybolus' technical genius was ahead of its time. It remained the most effective weapon on battlefield for over 1,000 years. Modern mechanics, reportedly, some people believe, are based on the principle of polybolus. The Roman polybolus is a unique and unprecedented thing in the entire history of the world. This weapon was a significant technological breakthrough compared to the ballista or the Roman scorpion. By the way, polybolus, Greek for polybolus meaning throwing a lot, or throwing, like I said before, is a deeply upgraded version of the scorpion with an automatic arrow feed system and rapid fire capability. There is no ready-made construction of the polybolus of those years, but there are only a number of vague descriptions and mentions. In general, the design of the polybolus almost completely duplicates the concept of modern semi-automatic weapons. A person uses the same looping movement to activate a mechanism that charges itself and releases projectiles during operation. The polybolus was a stationary weapon and an evolutionary offshoot of the ballista, and judging by the low angle of the gun, it would be more accurate to say a catapult. For a modern person, the design of the polybolus will seem elementary, but for the 3rd century, it was a serious step forward. A conveyor belt with special hooks was added to the usual ballista and placed on one side on a static mount, and a gear wheel was attached to the other. This wheel is equipped with handles for easy rotation. Using it, the conveyor was set in motion. The hooks hooked the bowstring, pulled and released it at the right moment. The shells for firing were located in a special box above the ballista and naturally poured down. The polybolus had a throwing rate of about 35 to 40 arrows per minute, which was 10 times higher than the rate of fire of guns with a manual reloading system. Polybolus was a very powerful thing. It could kill anyone, especially from a short distance. With the kill rate and the rate of fire, two of the most important parameters for mass use on the battlefields, the polybolus was doing just fine. The great advantage was the polybolus was the weapon of the untrained person and not a whole staff of experienced gunners. But you see, in the writings that I've collected, it says that something completely did it in. The polybolus design was very complex and required good manufacturing skills. The biggest disadvantage was its stationary nature. The polybolus could not be assembled at home and carried with the legions on campaigns. It had to be built right before the battle. Another drawback was with its reliability, even if the weapon was assembled by the best craftsmen. On the other hand, the Roman legions used polybolus both in land battles and in sea battles. They were located on special combat towers in quinquiremas or hexeras. The arrows were dipped in tar, and at the end of the polybolus stock, a copper window was made and smeared with tar. The window was set on fire, and a hail of fire arrows was received at the exit, which quickly set fire to the sails and hulls of enemy ships. This is what I have. It's not precise, but it's the best that I could collect, and we'll wait for more results of that study. But this weapon apparently existed, and that's what I wanted to let you know today. And I'll bring more interesting videos about ancient weapons, very unique and strange, like I said, from different cultures, not just Greeks, the Chinese, and more. If you like my research, please kindly support me to the links you find in the description to this video. Please subscribe to my channel. Please like my videos. Thank you.